every business has tasks we don't want to do. But often, the opportunity that would help grow your creator business is something that sits on your to-do list for months and you just don't do it.
Welcome back to On the Horizon. This is MelRose Michaels. I am your host, and I'm here to share what's worked for me in building my adult creator business to try to make building yours just a little bit easier. Let's get into today's episode.
I want to start today with a mistake that I made recently that ended up costing me about $5,000 at least. And it was one of those situations where, nothing dramatic happened. Okay, so the business itself, it was fine. What actually happened was way simpler. I had a strategy sitting on my to-do list that I kept pushing off week after month after year because other things felt more important. Eventually, I realized that cost of delay was showing up directly in my income. That experience made me slow down and think really, really carefully about something that I see happen with creators all the time once they've been in this industry for a while. Most of us, we reach a stage where we already know how to make money online, essentially. We know how to film content, how to edit it, how to post, how to talk with fans on social or in DMs, and most of us know how to market ourselves pretty effectively, I would say. The business is working, right? Yet, after some time, the numbers seem to settle into this familiar range we each have. And moving them higher starts to feel incredibly difficult. So when I started looking at this pattern really closely, I realized that it had a lot to do with how decisions get made inside my business. And today I want to talk to you about the real bottleneck that shows up once you already know how to make some money online. And as we get kind of deeper into this conversation, I'm going to walk you through a bit of a decision filter that I started using after that $5,000 mistake. And it helped me test a strategy that ended up raising my income within about 30 days. So just stick with me because understanding that process, I think, can really change the way that you approach and grow your business. So let's talk about the phase that almost every serious creator eventually experiences. At the beginning of your career, everything feels new, new and shiny and exciting. And, you started to make some money and you're in this honeymoon phase of adult. You are learning how platforms work. You're figuring out how to price content. You're learning how to talk to your fans, how to sell them things, and of course, how to promote yourself online. And during this stage, almost any improvement you make can increase your income, right? Because each new skill creates momentum. So as you kind of go up the skill ladder, you learn how to sell, you learn how to organize, you learn how to talk to fans, you learn how to do these things, go live on cam, whatever it might be. And every time you implement on this new skill set you learned, it creates momentum and revenue. After a while, though, the business reaches a different stage. You already know the basics and you have some systems in place for filming, posting, communicating with your audience, but you might even have certain months where income kind of jumps up really nicely. And then the numbers start to settle and plateau. You may see this occasional spike show up when something performs really well, like outlier content, for example. But sustaining a higher level in your business month after month and actually seeing growth over time, well, that's really difficult. Because the reality is the things that got you to the first level of your business, having a business, point blank, are not the same things that get you to the next level. Many creators really respond to that initial moment by experimenting with too many things at the same time. They might adjust their pricing or try different kinds of content or explore additional platforms or run sales and promotions. A lot of them actually consider changing or rebranding completely, which is oftentimes not the right lever to pull. All of these ideas, though, come from a genuine desire to grow, right? We all want to grow our businesses. The tricky part is that when several changes happen together, it becomes really, really difficult, if not impossible, to see which of those decisions actually move the needle. And over time, the business begins to feel really unpredictable. This is the most kind of place where creators seem to live, at least in my experience. When I'm helping creators or talking to them in DMs or inside our communities, most creators will say that their income feels unpredictable, not static. It's not stable, right? It's volatile. Some months are really strong, and then other months will take a dip. And the creators, of course, they keep working hard, as I think we all work really freaking hard, but the path feels really unclear. And this is where I think a mindset shift can help a lot. I talked about this in a recent YouTube video we did, and it seemed to help a lot of people, which is why I'm kind of going deep on this idea here. Because every creator actually holds two roles at the same time. And this is an oversimplification, but let's picture it as two different roles. One role is the performer or the talent, right? The creator themselves, the content creator role. That side of the job includes things like filming content, interacting with fans, and just building your online presence in general. Okay, so this is familiar. We all are in this role. We know what it means to be performer or talent. We all do these things. Now, the other role, this is the operator. The operator looks at the numbers behind the scenes and decides how the business should move forward. Most creators don't even recognize that they have this role, or they don't know how to take it on, and that's okay, right? When mainstream companies hire for this type of position, they're looking for someone super specific with certain skills who can guide the ship, so to speak, to whatever the company's goals are. Not everyone is a natural operator at all. This is very true. It might not come naturally to most creators. Most creators tend to be creative people. They tend to work better without structure and more fluidly. This is like where you kind of compare your skills to the traits you have as a person. But skills, as we know, can be developed. So, an operator is someone, in my opinion, who kind of translates strategy into execution. So, they do things like overseeing the day to day workflows. They allocate resources and budgets. They monitor performance or KPIs. They look for bottlenecks and try to remove them, optimizing whatever a certain process looks like. And they ensure quality output and consistency for whatever the business is, whatever the business does. So, in short, I would say they kind of keep the machine running or they keep the train on the tracks, right? When creators start thinking about their work through that lens, the lens of an operator, their approach to decisions begins to change. Because instead of relying on, instinct or feeling, they start gathering information and running tests. So, for example, imagine noticing that subscriber growth has slowed recently on your fan site. A creator who's thinking like an operator might review their analytics to see whether traffic coming from social media has changed. They might decide to test a specific content strategy for 30 days and just track how many new followers or clicks it produces for them. However, a creator would likely stop posting to social media in general because they get frustrated, or they're going to post to social media really randomly, right? With content that doesn't target their ideal audience or doesn't have a visual hook or an audible hook or isn't optimized for the longest watch time possible. That's what most creators who still don't understand short form content are actually posting. But approaching the situation like an operator, it turns growth into something that can be studied and improved over time. That's the difference. They can dial in and they can double down on what's working, and then they can make more of it. Another habit that I think is really important to talk about is that creators really gain clarity when they're focusing on one variable at a time, right? So if you can picture in your mind like a control panel with a bunch of levers on it that you can pull, think that each lever kind of represents something or influences something about your income. Okay, so maybe there's one lever that's pricing. Maybe the other lever is posting frequency. Maybe one of the levers is marketing strategies. Maybe another one is fan engagement. So, like DMs, right? These are all really strong examples. When many of those levers move at once, it becomes difficult to see which adjustment created the result. So, by concentrating on one of those levers at a time, you give yourself a much clearer picture of what's actually happening in your business. Changing one thing and then doing it for 30 days, measuring what did or did not happen, deciding if that change worked to what you were trying to achieve or it didn't work. And then based on if it worked or didn't work, that's when you decide if you're going to keep it And if it didn't work, then you don't do it again. And then you go and test something else. This approach, I admit, in you listening to this, I'm sure you're feeling it and thinking it in your head. It requires a lot of patience, right? You're doing one thing differently for 30 days or 14 days, 90 days, whatever your tracking interval is. But that patience is important because it helps you build a deeper understanding of how your audience responds to different things happening in your business. And it helps you get out of this cycle of insanity where you just don't get any results and keep saying, I don't know what's happening.
If you're enjoying this podcast episode so far, please take one moment to share it with another one of your adult content creator friends, because you know what the rule is here. We do not gatekeep, and we want to make as many adult creators' businesses as easy as possible. And you sharing this episode with them might do exactly that. Thanks so much in advance.
This is going to be painful. I want to be really real for a minute in this episode, like hard truth kind of real. I think personally, and this is my opinion, saying that you don't know what's happening, it's kind of unacceptable because you should know. You should absolutely know because it's your business. So you're doing or you're not doing, it could be either, everything related to your business, right? So you take action inside your business or you don't. But you are the one that does this. No one else films, no one else edits, posts, distributes to platforms, chooses what social content you make, posts it, chats in your DMs, or engages with them like your fans on social. You do that. So not knowing why you're not growing or what things currently aren't working or what things are working, that's not acceptable for you. You are the CEO, you are the operator. It is literally your job to know. No one is going to come build this for you. I think a lot of creators in the market honestly hope that they'll go viral and then that'll build their business. Like one TikTok or one Instagram reel or one YouTube short that really outperforms and you get all these influx of new subs. Well, guess what? Subscribers on a fan site typically churn in 3 to 4 months. So even if you did get that and saw some huge growth and some huge spike, you're going to lose it. It's going to be gone in 3 to 4 months. Like that's the nature of the business. So you can't be looking for virality to build what you're trying to build. You actually have to do it with intention yourself. So now that I've kind of said that, and I'm sure so many people that listen to this episode will be feeling personally attacked, stay with me because if that's where you kind of feel like you are, you don't know what's going on, there is good news, right? There is a formula and there is something to do about it. We just need you to start implementing on it. So let's go back to those levers we talked about for a minute, because there's actually a lever that we avoid completely. And it's a really funny pattern that I've noticed from creators and also completely in my own workflows over the years, right? So often the opportunity that would help grow your creator business is something that sits on your to-do list for months and you just don't do it. So the growth and success is almost always in the task that you are actively avoiding doing. I experienced this myself with short form content on social media. For a long time, we all know that short form videos was becoming one of the main ways that you could grow an audience and get discovered online, right? We all know that. But I kept telling myself that I would start posting them consistently soon, right? Soon. It's coming soon. And that was that. Well, soon was like 4 to 5 years ago now. And eventually I decided I'm just going to run a test. I committed to posting short form content regularly for a full month, 30 days, and I paid really close attention to what happened. And you might have noticed the short form videos going up on my MelRose Michaels IG, and they've been crazy consistent now. Within that 30 days, my business experienced a noticeable jump in income. So the strategy had been available to me the entire time. I knew about it completely. I had simply not given it any focused attention, which was needed to execute on the strategy. And of course, you see that in the revenue. The impact was about $5,000 in the first 30 days of posting consistently alone. And that's at least 5K that I was leaving on the table every single month. Now, if we get to thinking about that number in even conservative terms, it gets pretty upsetting. If I was leaving 5K on the table every month for 4 to 5 years which, let's also be real, would have compounded dramatically over time. In 4 to 5 years, like that would have grown my revenue and my brand probably 10 to 20x the size it currently sits at today. So the cost of putting that off, I don't even want to calculate it. It's like $240,000 conservatively, but likely closer to $1 million plus considering the views that would have compounded over time and the fraction of content that would have outperformed my average content. So the point is, do not make this kind of mistake. Do not let your success and growth hide behind a task on your to-do list that you don't feel like doing. Every business has tasks we don't want to do. We call it overhead of doing business. We don't want to file taxes either, but we still do, don't we? By the way, at the time of airing this episode, it's March 31st and tax time is right around the corner in April. Nice, gentle reminder. The point is, your success is very likely hiding behind that thing you are procrastinating on. And I promise you, it's worth doing. It will likely pay you very, very well if you actually take the time to do it. So, moments like that short form content thing, they remind me how powerful it can be to just treat business ideas as experiments rather than like vague aspirational plans. I think experiments to me are fun for some reason, right? They're like kind of like games. And I feel if it's like a game, it's a lot more fun to do, you know? So I would encourage you to frame it this way in your mind and try to play games with your business. Take chances, run tests, and then see which of them actually help you win the game. Now, another important piece of this puzzle involves tracking useful data. We talk about this all the time on this channel. Many creators will naturally kind of keep an eye on their monthly earning in terms of their income, right? It's really easy to notice, and it tells us whether a business is growing overall. Sure. Okay, absolutely. But alongside income, there are several other numbers that help reveal what is happening behind the scenes. So metrics like subscriber retention, conversion rates, traffic sources, it can show you how people discover your profile and what encourages them to stay and spend money. So looking at those numbers regularly can highlight the patterns that are easy to miss otherwise. And over time, those insights make it easier to choose strategies that will build steady and repeatable growth. Now, before we kind of wrap up, I also want to acknowledge something that I think everyone in this industry experiences. So, running an online creator business can be emotional. It can be personal. I think it's very hard to keep business and personal separate when our bodies and our personalities and our character are all kind of part of this product we sell. You can't separate those things out. And so it can all feel very personal. Your work is also really visible to the public. Audience reactions can change from day to day. Legislation and policy can change the landscape seemingly overnight nowadays. And also incomes, they rise and they fall. That's just the reality and the nature of our business. And all of that creates an environment where it's kind of easy to make decisions based out of how things feel in the moment and not off any data or evidence. So learning to pause and look at the bigger picture helps bring balance back to that process. Remembering to put on your operator hat and view things from this analytical lens is the remedy. Okay, and with practice, decisions start to feel a lot calmer and a lot more intentional from your end and around your business as a whole. Now, this type of structured thinking, this kind of like testing and tracking philosophy, and the idea that building together is a lot faster than building alone, this is something that we practice inside this secret project I've been working on for the past 2+ weeks called the Boardroom. So the Boardroom is a paid mentorship and mastermind community. It's not courses that you're going to be able to binge watch. There's no curriculum to follow. It is a weekly live call where the Boardroom members run tests, they get results, and they share the best results with the group so that everyone gets better together faster and much, much more effectively. Inside the Boardroom, members focus on building systems to understand their numbers, right? To run better experiments and also make smarter decisions about where to invest their time. It's essentially a space where creators are no longer guessing, but they're learning and testing and growing together. And at the time of airing this episode live, March 31st, 2026, it is not open to the public for anyone else to join. But tomorrow, April 1st, 2026, it will be. And this is not a joke, despite the April 1st hard launch date. That is just a coincidence. But it is very real, and creators are getting very real results. So I'll talk about that really thoroughly in a YouTube video that we post tomorrow. So keep your eye out if this is interesting to you. And just a note, spaces for this are really limited because I have to keep this manageable to give each boardroom member the time and attention I believe they deserve. And I'm sure you listening can understand that. Now, the real takeaway I want to leave you with today is that as your business grows, the skills that move you forward will begin to change. Content creation remains important, of course, yet the strategy behind that content becomes just as valuable. Learning how to test ideas, to observe results, to make thoughtful adjustments allows your business to mature in a steady and practical and sustainable way. So as we kind of come to the end of this conversation, I really want to leave you thinking about one simple question. What experiment are you currently running in your business? Taking time to answer that question is going to reveal a lot about how you approach growth and how you're running your business. Thank you so much for listening to EO Squad. I will see you in the next one.
It would be absolutely incredible if you rated this podcast 5 stars and left a little review. We want to get this podcast to as many adult creators as possible, and you taking a second to leave a couple stars and a review really helps us do that. Thanks so much.